Hi, I'm Anatole, and this is my review of Dark Season 1, Episode 3, titled Past and Present. It scored 8.5 on IMDb, and the plot summary, courtesy of IMDb. It's 1986, and Ulrich's brother Mads has been missing for a month. Confusion reigns as past and present intertwine. And boy, did we get a new admixture into this melange in this episode. I've seen comparisons to Twin Peaks and Stranger Things, and I haven't heard anyone talk about X-Files before, but I definitely get that impression. But the plot of this episode reminded me of a movie from the 1980s, appropriately enough. I haven't seen anyone compare this show to. I'm surprised, and that is Back to the Future. So we have Mikhail, otherwise known as Mikhail McFly, meeting his mom and his dad, and his mom and his dad are not aware that they're meeting their future son, as far as I can tell. And he goes back into the 1980s, which is where Marty McFly comes from. And then he's in a small town, just like Back to the Future. We have a mad scientist. He hasn't met the mad scientist yet, and then there's time travel involved. So that's my take on what could have been an influence on this episode. And then, so the mystery, the plot deepens, as they say, and we get to learn a little bit more about the people in the town. And there's a bravura scene that reminded me of the musical sequence from Magnolia that's set to the song from Amy Mann, I believe it was Amy Mann, where all the characters look at the camera and sing, and then the camera pans past them, and that's all that happens for about 3 minutes. And there's a scene here where we get to see the characters in the 1980 version and the current day version, which is very helpful, because the cast is really large. I had to go looking online for some sort of map or chart of who all these people are, and I found one. Unfortunately, I'm not going to link to it in the show notes because it has some spoilers. I suspect the spoilers are not too far into season 1, so it didn't ruin too much for me. But there are enough spoilers there that I'm not going to link to it. But for me, it's very useful. When I can feel confident, I can share that information with someone who has not watched ahead, so I can share it without spoiling it, I will. But it's definitely needed. So, yeah, as far as I can tell, there are 4 main families that the story is following. And Mikhail is in the same family as Ulrich, and his mom's name I can't remember. I'm trying to do some music while I look. Katerina, and I think I can't remember if he talks to Katerina. That wouldn't make sense. So he talks to a girl in the high school and asks if his mom's there. I think he says Katerina, so it wouldn't make sense that she's the one laughing at him, but I feel like it was for some reason. But anyway, he does meet Ulrich, his father, and they don't get along so well. And so we have the ineffectual cop kind of tooling around town. Instead of being the cop that is sitting at the Dunkin' Donuts having a cup of coffee and donut, this one is an alcoholic and not the sharpest tool in the shed. And he's quick to blame the heavy metal music that Ulrich's listening to as being the culprit for all the mysteries going on in that town. But I think the biggest revelation, apart from the fact that Ulrich jumped back into time, was that there's something strange going on at the power plant, and that the new head of the power plant, the woman, I'm not sure what you call the head of a nuclear power plant. It's not CEO. Head of operations at the power plant is, I'm looking at the map now. So like I said, very, very useful. Claudia Tiedemann, head of nuclear plant is what they say. So on my research material. And she can see immediately when she gets the books that the numbers aren't adding up. There's something being cooked. So she goes down in the cave and sees some nuclear waste. So we can assume that's going to be part of what's causing the strangeness. And then at the very end of the episode, we see the clockmaker putting some final touches on the gears and we can assume that that is also part of what's the mystery of what's going on. So I really can't say if the plot was furthered more than that. We get to see that the past is somehow involved, that the nuclear plant is part of that. We got to meet a lot of the characters as they were in the 1950s. And boy, what else happened? I think that's about it. But even though the plot didn't seem to go very far, we didn't get a lot of character moments. There was a lot of mood to it, and we got to see the characters are going through grief. So I caught that as being a common theme, that people are suffering grief and they don't have the right tools to express it, and they don't have the right person to share it with. So there's a number of times, for example, I think her name is Mads, or is Mads the boy that's missing? The mom, is it? Oh, I think it's Mikhail's grandmother, if I'm not mistaken. Mikhail Nielsen, yeah, his grandmother, Jana. So Mads would have been his uncle. Like I said, very confusing, all these characters. But so she sees Mikhail, and she has a moment where she's not sure, is that Mads? And then she's suspicious that Mikhail must know where Mads is, and you can see she's unable to process the grief that she's going through. And then there was another scene where Mikhail can't really share what's happening with him with the nurse, who is the mom of the boy who committed suicide. And that nurse was, so Michael committed suicide, and the nurse is Ines Conwald, and he can't share with her because of that he's from the future, because he knows as soon as he does, she won't believe him, and he does, and she doesn't believe him. But there, you can feel that anguish that he feels. That he's in a situation he's never going to be rescued from. That no one will be able to help him or understand him. So yeah, interesting. It's a very tight procedural. This is a procedural with hints of the supernatural and the mystery, but it's a procedural. At least it's moving forward like a procedural. And so I wonder how much character development we're going to get, because there's so many characters and so much plot. Then usually the thing that is sacrificed at the expense of all that, of a large cast and a lot of plot, is going to be character development. So we'll have to see. But everything else is so well done. I love the music. Oh yeah, I wanted to mention, do people of Germany in the 1980s only listen to British and American music? And I think I only heard British pop songs. Maybe there was like one German pop song, but that seemed a little bit too trying to appeal to the international market. I'm sure the music was popular with the youth at that time, but I was wondering, if you're going to talk about the music of, oh darn it, he did Mozart, the song about Mozart. Oh, I can't remember his name. They talk about it. Falco. Yeah, if you're going to have characters talking about Falco, why aren't we hearing this song? And it was a little bit telling that song is about a man going off into the forest and killing his girlfriend, and in the forest is where a lot of the strangeness is happening. So I'm sure that was not entirely coincidental. I'm sure that was meant to evoke something about the forest that the story is taking place in. Well, that's my take on this episode. I'm eager to see the next episode and see how the story develops, and where they're going to take the character of Mikhail, because I have a feeling he won't be stuck in time for the entire season. I could be wrong, but I have a feeling that's not where they want to take his character. So I'm eager to see if my hunch on that is correct. Okay, that's all for now. Take care and be well. Goodbye.